Hey, welcome to class, and tonight we're going to talk about a 5th grade U.S. history standard. Our standard for tonight is SS5H3. The student will describe how life changed in America at the turn of the century, but what we're going to be focusing on is B. Describe the impact on American life of the Wright brothers, George Washington Carver, Alexander Graham Bell, and Thomas Edison. Alright, to start off our video, we're going to actually look at a little introductory video that deals with the Wright brothers. You'll notice this video does not have sound, and this is actually the recording of the Wright brothers' first flight that they made in 1903. Okay. Alright, so our first slide, we're going to talk about the Wright brothers, these two men right here. They opened up a bicycle shop, and this is where they developed the idea of flying. In their bicycle shop, they would build small gliders and put engines on them and try to make them fly. Their first attempt at flight was at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, and it was a failure. They continued developing their idea, though, and they didn't give up, and they had a successful flight on December 17th, 1903, and that flight lasted for 12 seconds. They made a very big impact on the world with that very first flight because just 6 years later, they had opened up their own airplane business. So we're going to look at the overall impact that the Wright brothers had on American society. They are credited with the first human flight. Without the Wright brothers, we would not have had airplanes in World War I, World War II, and we wouldn't have commercial flights today. So they not only influenced America, but they influenced the world as a whole. Our next fellow that we're going to talk about, this man, George Washington Carver. He was born a slave in 1864, and he was raised by the Carver family. That's why his last name is Carver. He was a very brilliant child, and he loved to learn. He went to high school in Kansas, and he eventually went to college at Iowa State. He received his bachelor's and master's in botany. Botany is a study of plants. He eventually became a professor at Iowa State, and he was actually the first African-American professor at that school. From his research, he developed crop rotation, and he also helped the South in a time of need. The boll weevil had started attacking cotton in the South. And as we've studied earlier, the South lived off of cotton. That was their crop. But what he found out was that the boll weevils didn't like peanuts. But there was one problem with that. Peanuts was not a valuable crop. So what he did was he started making products from peanuts. He made cooking oils, dyes, and the most famous that we still have today is peanut butter. So what was George Washington Carver's impact on American society? He was an expert on agriculture. Mr. Carver discovered crop rotation, which is still used today, and he developed numerous products that we still use, such as peanut butter and peanut oil. All right. Third fellow we're going to talk about is Alexander Graham Bell. He was originally born in Scotland in 1847, and then he moved to America. He was interested in sound because both of his parents were deaf. He had this wild idea that he could send voice signals through a wire, and somebody eventually took him up on this wild idea and decided to fund his project. With the money that he received, he hired an assistant by the name of Thomas Watson, and these two men successfully developed what we now know as the telephone. The first message that was ever sent through a telephone occurred on March 10th, 1876, well over 100 years ago. And the first message was, "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you." A year later, he formed the Bell Telephone Company in 1877, and we still have this company today. It's known as AT&T. So what was Alexander Graham Bell's influence on American society? Modern communication. Without him, we wouldn't have modern communication. In 1887, Around that time, this is what phones looked like. And then we went to the rotary dial phones in the 1950s, and now today we have cell phones. We walk around and can talk to anybody in the world. All right, Thomas Edison. He is the last fellow we're going to talk about. Thomas Edison was known as an inventor and scientist, and he's credited with having the first research lab. He developed 1,093 different inventions, but his most famous, and the one we're going to focus on, is the incandescent light bulb. Now, he was not the first person to ever create a light bulb, but he was the first one to create a light bulb that could be used in the homes, and it was practical, and it could be manufactured very easily. What he did was he developed his light bulb using a carbonized filament. And what that would do, it would burn when electricity was run through it. He's also credited with creating the power grid system that sends electricity into our homes, and that is still around today. So, Thomas Edison's overall influence on American society. He created the first practical light bulb that could be manufactured and used in the home, and he also is known for the power grid system that I talked about earlier. To finish our lesson, we're going to do a little bit of an assessment here, and we are going to connect these men to their inventions. So the first guy we have here is Thomas Edison, and he is known for the light bulb. So we're going to draw a line to the light bulb. Our second guy we're looking at is George Washington Carver, and he's the man that did all the stuff with the peanuts. So he is known as the man that did peanut butter. Third guy we have here is Alexander Graham Bell, and we know him as the father of modern communication. So we're going to lead a line over here to the telephone. And then the last one is the two brothers, the Wright brothers, and we credit them with modern flight. And that sums up our lesson, and I'll see you tomorrow in class. Thank you for watching.